I'm just gonna send a few more invites. A few people have reached out to me. Then we'll start. Okay. Okay, so I'll just begin now, and then I'll just keep adding people when they trickle in. So basically, I just wanted to start off welcoming everyone. This is my first time doing something like this. I don't have a web camera on my Mac Mini setup, but we don't need video. We just care about audio and the visual of what I'm gonna teach. So, um, basically, I am gonna just start from the very beginning of post production in general, from ideas, levels, um, game staging of monitors, all that stuff, to delivery in like hour, 2 hours or so, depending how long we want to be here. So yeah, basically, I just want to briefly like mention over the years, I've been doing post sound now for 4 years, and I got into audio doing live sound for church back in 6th grade, and I just began to enjoy music, mixing music, all that stuff. And then in college, I found that I was really good with audio, and um, I didn't really know that post sound was a thing till my freshman year audio teacher told me that she saw that I have an ear for it, and I was like, okay, I will take it and go with it and run with it and go as far as I want to go with it. And so now I'm here. And then now I'm living out here in Glendale, California for the past 2 years now. I've lived in Burbank area as well. But yeah, and then so like I've been growing my home setup now, and um over the years I've always had an issue with translations from working at home to playing in a theater, and I never really understood what that's all about. And I um recently like began to understand calibration more, and making sure that your LCR, um, like for me, I'm editing on LCR, but I mix in 5.1. Um, but I make sure that all my speakers are set to about 82. I found it, and then my rears are 3 less than that, so 79 in the rear. And then yeah, and then I just over the past 2 years I just began to pick up my ears on loudness and understand that more, because I've always been eyeing the meters and mixing to the meters and following the meters everywhere I go, and it just never worked out for me at times. And yeah, and um, one of my mentors, Andy Hay, he told me about the Freddie Munson curve, and like told me to look at it and like learn about it, and that recently helped me understand the concepts of mixing loudness and just understanding where we're at mixing wise in general. And then yeah, and then so basically I then over the years have updated my template for 5.1 and everything. So basically, I'll first start from the beginning um, and take you from the AF to final delivery. So basically, what I do, everyone here is different and will edit and ingest and do things differently and learn from each other. What I do normally is after I import the AAF, link up all the media, I would then duplicate um, my AAF, duplicate it, and then hide that, and then use the original one as my copy and paste. And so when I'm so I bring so when I'm doing the dialogue edit, I normally will make sure all the dialogue is on the first 8 tracks, depending how big, complicated the short or feature is, and how the editor managed his or her tracks. I will then bring those up to my dialogue track, and then I will go through and then find all the mono effects and all the effects and bring those up to my effects section of my template and do the same for music. So that being said, we'll take a look at how I tackle dialogue is I use Clipgain a lot. I use iZotope RX7 Vance, Bruce Fry, and Waves WNS audio suites when I'm mixing. But when I'm editing, I mostly just use like D-Russell, D-Click, Dplosive, and just like begin there and then um, one sec. And so yeah, so when I copy and paste the dialogue up to my dialogue tracks, I will then go in and do mic selection and just make sure if it's a short or depending on audio quality, I will either just cut only the boom stuff or cut both boom and lav. I need to invest in the audio line match because I've been beginning to do a lot more boom and lav mixing, and um, it saves me time and hassle. And as a dialogue editor and dialogue re-recording mixer, I feel like I should pick that up. What is audio line? Audio line match is a plugin. Basically, it will take your boom and lav tracks and it will match phase to the boom. And because when you're mixing boom and lav, they're at two separate different distances. The boom could be 3 feet above the person, and someone could be walking around with lavs. Yeah, sorry, auto align post. And yeah, and so basically, it's gonna match it to the boom, and when it's cutting, it's gonna make sure everything is in phase and nothing wonky. And so basically, it's just a generic dialogue edit. I've done made sure it flows well with tails and heads, and I made sure. And as I'm going along, clip gaining stuff and RXing stuff. I leave the denoising, even though when I pick up projects that I'm editing and mixing them myself, I will imagine that I am only doing one roll per time. So I won't be denoising as I'm editing because I know that's normally lent for the mixer to do. And so then when I get to mixing, I will denoise stuff. But um, basically, I then will, go through, clean up my tracks, and just make sure everything's flowing. And budget depending, I will bring down stuff to the PFX or just and also depending on time of the project. If it is a fast short that's low budget and they're just rushing me, then I wouldn't really have the time to go through and um, do what I would do if I had a feature of pulling PFX down and all that stuff. But since I'm doing a lot of the self projects that are shorts, I normally will sometimes not even like do PFX and just leave them in dialogue track and go as is, depending on if the budget of the short is big enough or like I have the time to do it, then I will do it. And so I'll just I'll have you guys take a listen, and yeah. This is just the dialogue that I did on a short that I helped out on recently for my alma mater school. I went to Huntington University, and they just opened up a campus in Arizona. And last year, someone reached out to me and was like, "Hey, we need a person to just like mix our film and get a better mix with it." And so this is just a small bit of it.
There's a red zone ahead. Put your mask on. Sarah.
I heard you.
What's going on?
Nothing.
Would you stop for a second? What is this about?
We never stop.
You know why we can't stop.
Well, maybe if we did, then Mom would still be here.
So yeah, that's basically how I normally do dialogue, edit stuff. This film was recorded a little rough at times, and so I had a hard time, but I managed to get it sounding really good in the mix. And so what I do for dialogue when I'm mixing, is I don't really use a lot of plugins on my dialogue track. I just have a EQ, a quality EQ set when need to be. And mind you, I brought this session into my newer template session, so that's also why it doesn't sound as good. Is just because it was coming from my old template and I brought it into my new template, and I just wanted to get it rolling and well. But yeah, so I will automate my EQs a lot. And then on my dialogue reassign, which I just have one, I don't use the outs a whole lot. One of my mentors have taught me how to use like reassigns and showed me the the magical powers of auxes and routing and through them and everything. And so lately I've been trying that out more and more, and it's, to me, it seems a lot more smoother, easier, and there's a lot less compensation, delay compensation through plugins and all that stuff I found sometimes, when you're not routing through the in and outs and just through the auxes. On my dialog bus, which is my dialog reassign aux, I have constantly running voice denoise. Depending on the film, I will leave it at 10 or just drop it down to like 8 or so. Because like right now I don't have Cedar. I don't have the money or the knowledge of using it, so I just normally just will leave that on in the background. But I don't like slam it a whole lot of like, let's denoise everything, because no, you have to do it in moderation and in steps. And when I'm going through my dialog predub, I will denoise stuff with Audio Suite denoise and get it smoother and tighter. And then I have another EQ. This one's more for the tonality of voices, and just the overall tone of the dialogue. And then that goes into the UAD mainly Voxbox that I run. It's a channel strip. And yeah, and I do some also another set of de-essing as well. I used to have 2 de-essers on my dialog reassign, but it sounded a lot better to just have one here and then at the end use Soothe as well. I just picked up Soothe too. I don't know a whole lot about it. Just gonna begin to learn it like just a few days ago. When I was over at Ascension Post in Burbank, the owner mixer told me about this plugin, and I had Soothe 1 at the time, a little bit, but I never really opened it because it was like a Black Friday deal and it was super cheap, so I just went for it. And so he too was talking about Soothe and Soothe 2, and I was like, I should take another look at it and try and implement it in my template. And so the next project that I'm gonna mix, I'll probably be using Soothe 2 on it. But yeah, and then after I have some soft compression going through the Voxbox, I have another compressor, the Nave 33609. Soothe 2 is not a compressor, it's a it's what is it? It's a dynamic, it's kind of a dynamic EQ, de-esser, resonator suppressor. It doesn't basically it's picking up.
Sarah,
I heard you.
It's basically showing you the resonance, and you are able to soften them and make them not as strong. As the owner told me, like he normally uses it on like the low end stuff and as a de-esser as well. So like I'm sorry, I don't really have the answer for that. I too have to look more into it. I'll get back to you once I do know how to use it correctly. And then yeah, and then I have my Neve 33609, soft compression again. basically I have these two UAD stuff doing soft compression and really just getting the color and warmth that I'm looking for my dialogue. I recently um, always had like the impression that like getting that rich, nice film cinematic deep voice for like the men and the really nice sounding voices for the females is like I thought is just like it is years of practice of EQing and mixing and learning by ear as well, but it's also where it all starts, which is on production, on set, and being able to go about with that. Um, and so basically, um, yeah, and so I I began to really now understand how speakers work. I know that might sound like a little redundant or stupid, but like um, I just a lot of my mentors have like um over the years and just training my ears to really under and my mind to really understand like the whole concept of like full range speakers and near field speakers and their frequency ranges. And because like at the time before I had the 5-1 setup, I had a 2-1 setup, um and like I didn't really have it calibrated correctly, and I just always thought that like having a sub means I have an LFE, but it doesn't. Like the LFE is just a channel out of the 6 channels out of a 5-1, and it's not. And having a full range speaker is not just because you have a subwoofer. Like having a full range speaker means that your monitor speaker can go from 20,000 hertz all the way down to 20, or give or take to 30 about. But it's supposed to be like full hearing spectrum of hearing is your main speakers, and with horns and all that stuff, which are expensive and big for the cinemas, but like it's the same. And so with that being said, I always like wanted that like deep grumbly like vocals, not well in vocals, but voice for like a lot of recently a lot for my male actors that I've been mixing and EQing, and I'm like, how am I not hearing that? And then when I brought one film over to a dub stage to take a listen to it for my first time for a playback at a dub stage, because like a lot of my projects I don't really have the budget to go to a dub stage, um, and so it was like my first time on a real dub stage playing back some work that I've mixed in my calibrated room that I have right now. I was really pleased because at first when I brought stuff over to a dub stage to just get a demo of it, it was really under volume. But then this time around, it was at volume and it sounded really rich and good and full. And so I was really impressed by that. And so that's basically my dialogue side of things. And then for my reverbs, I have for my dialogue verbs, I use the Phoenix Surround verbs, um, and I just use 2 of them because sometimes sometimes I'll mix the sends, both of them for a scene, or sometimes I'll just set one scene for one verb, and then verb 2 will be the next verb 1, verb 2, and so on. And so that's basically how I run my dialogue chain and my dialogue verbs. And then I have a VCA controlling the dialogue. And so as you can see, my dialogue aux is then going routed to my dialogue record track. and my dialogue record track is then down here, here, and then I have a send going to my 5.1 print master. And yeah, so going again, all dummy tracks. So it's fake inputs. Well, it's not, well, it is input, but it's going nowhere. I use an underscore just because it looks clean, and I feel like if I see nothing, I know there's nothing there. And so yeah, basically I'll quickly run through my buses. So yeah, as you can see, mono blank, and yeah, that's how I do that. Yeah, I would hide. Yeah, like I would hide these, and then mix from this. And so, and then for effects, I normally begin pulling all the temp effects that they have, seeing where they are, where like what the editor chose, the director chose, and then I will then go in myself and add more layers to it and begin to really dive into the effects side of stuff and do my sound design work. And in my template, I have I created a new section now for all my sound design elements that because I normally will have my either like hard effects and gunshots broken down into sections. So like guns up here or guns down here, cars, vice versa. And so it kind of helps me mix cleaner and know like what's coming up. And as I'm flipping through my on my mixer here, I can know what I'm hopping between. Let me just that reminds me. I just need right now. I'm using a Command 8 control surface, which reminds me I need to reconnect. Okay, so yeah. If you are using a control surface, a nice little shortcut that I've learned is Control Shift and click on a channel, and basically it's gonna focus the control surface to those 8 channels or however many channels your control surface has. It's a nice little feature. So let's just hop over to the effects. Solo that. Okay. So yeah, I'll just play back a little bit of what I've done. I will get to mixing after I run through the edits. I don't mix the dialogue or really anything before I finish the whole film as editorial. As I said before, I normally take it roll by roll. Even though I am editing and mixing shorts for myself that I take in, I will take like a week or like 3 days to do the dialogue edit if it's a 10-minute short, and then take another 3 days to do just the effects edit, mute the dialogue and just focus on the effects, and then take like 2 days, a Foley or so, and then bring in the score once the composer gets it, and then and then I'll go and mix it. So to shortly answer your question now, no, I don't mix my dialogue before cutting effects. But I will come back to that later. Here's a little fun little scene that I did for the short. and yeah, so I know it's not super good or big and exciting, but um, if it sounds good, it's good, and if the client likes it, it's good. Like I do try and achieve um, big Hollywood sounds, because that's where I'm heading. But I know that everyone is in this for a reason, and everyone is doing the best that he or she can do. And like this short was before I really began to really get better at my sound effects editing. But because a lot of my later projects that I've been working on um, are a lot more better editorial wise, but I can't really show them because they're more or less features, and I'm not able to show them yet. They're all indie features, but I want to respect all the paperwork that I've signed. So basically, um, and then so after that, um, and yeah, so for my effects, it's more or less the same, of my dialogue, but I'm just running one plugin on all my effects, which is the channel strip, basic little channel strip, that I automate for whatever. Um, for gunshots, I do like compress stuff and like do what sounds good to my ears. Um, and so basically, and then to my and then to the effects aux, I again just have a compressor, not compressor, channel strip, and basically, I don't really do a whole lot for the effects stuff. Um, like like I know other mixers probably have lots more effects and plugins running at the same time. But to me, like honestly, like for me, like I feel more confident and comfortable with having minimum stuff, or just having one channel strip plugin that I know a channel strip will have trim, compressor, EQ, gate, limiter, and your out gain. And so I don't really need anything else. And then on all my very quickly, I'll just hop down. So I have master faders controlling everything as well. That I have peak uh, Avid's pro limiters on, and they're just for safety of at -1. I don't really push them a whole lot. The only one that I do push is my for my web. When I want to have like a YouTube mix, I'll then just like in a sense crush it, but not completely crush it, and just get my short term. Will get my integrated around um around -16 for web. Um, and so there's a lot of like, even though like I said, like I don't really follow meters, like the only really one meter that I do follow is the WLM loudest meter. And like once I know my dialogue as I pre-dub it, with just clip gain, no volume automation, no nothing, but just have my compressors on. After I know that's sitting around -24, -27, I normally will just then close this window because I know my dialogue is sounding fine in my room and comfortable. And so that's so like yeah. So effects editing, I basically just go through the film and cut all the hard effects that I see, door closes, hand pats, guns, cars, everything. And I fade them accordingly, and try and group them together. For like gunshots, I try and keep them together. Because when I'm mixing, it's a lot more easier to just pull up my automation window here, and then I just do like what do I do? Oh yeah, preview automation, and then I just put it on loop, and I just set levels, and then I punch out of preview, and then go back like 5 seconds, play through it, and then mix and adjust those levels as needed. And then for my backgrounds, I go about this on 2 different routes. One is that I have 2 separate BGs. Sometimes I'll have a third BGC, but I go scene by scene, and I give each BG's overlap of 1 frame into the next scene. I've seen many different ways. I've seen people with fades of 2 frames, 1 before, 1 after, or the way that I've been taught at one facility that I love. I was taught this TP trick of just 1 frame in, 1 frame out. Because like when you're mixing backgrounds, like the subtlety of it shouldn't toss you out of the film. And like if your BG's super loud and it's 1 frame difference, of course you'll hear it. But if it's subtleness and your dialogue edit is flowing together, as like you can see here, like it's melding together, then your background crossfades of 1 frame should not be an issue. And then when it comes to music, I have it set up so like source tracks are mono. Those are for when I have a cue that there's like a speaker, radio, vinyl record player that needs to be FUTs or whatnot. I will make it mono, put it on here, FUTs it, and leave it as is. Source tracks I feel are usually diegetic and part of the film. And so being that, I would like to have more control of where in the room it'll be playing, so I can pan it accordingly. And I can do whatever I want to it. And then for temp music or soundtracks, I will put it for music, I will put it on song A or B and cut them as is. And then for score, if I get only if I only get a stereo mix of it, then I'll put it on these and cut them between as is, of 1 cue after the next cue, depending where they are. And then my 5-1 score is if a composer gets a film score mixer to mix it in 5-1 and they deliver it to me in 5-1, I can just place it right there. And then on my music aux, I am running Nugent Halo Upmix. I picked this up like 6 months ago. I really like it. And it just helps me gets my music up to 5-1 as well, and just helps me get to the 5-1 point of the master prints and not be stuck on like having only left and right music at times. What's your routing setup? Well, my setup is I have for my LCR is 3 JBL 305 Mark IIs, and then I have my old JBL 305s in the rear. And yeah. And then so my music tracks are then going routed to my music aux, which is a 5.1 aux, which is then going to my music record track. And then down here, if we open these up, is where everything comes in like a funnel and gets funneled. So basically, I have a 5.0 dialogue track, a 5.1 effects, and 5.1 music. And so all my tracks are being routed. All my, not tracks, all my stems are being routed to the stem recorders here. I don't have a separate machine to be my proper stem recorder, but I'm kind of treating this session like I do have a stem recorder. And so as you can see, they're coming in on a regular input and out on a dummy track. And what that does is that it cuts down a lot of the delay compensation that I've ran into when I'm running direct out. It just gets really, it really bogs my computer down. Even though I have a new Mac Mini, my old MacBook Pro laptop was getting bogged down a lot. And so when I set up through auxes, it really began to open up less, not less, less power. Well, yeah, like it takes off less work off of my computer to do that. And yes, I do re-record all my shorts and even my features onto my tracks. I have to add in my uh, I have to remake these for this section down here for my stereo prints because I've been delivering a lot more for 5.1, so I didn't really have time to make those for my stereo prints. But when I do, I just do the same routing, and I just go off of here. Then I would just go new track, and then send it new track. No, I would go from my stems, like music here, the music aux. Like, try to remember. No, actually, I'll take it from here. Yeah, new track from my print stems, new aux input, and I'd call that like stereo dialogue. I'd first do it 5.0 to stereo. I say that just because on this aux I would then put a down mixer on it, so then it will retain all the correct information to what I need. And then basically, yes, I will set everything in line and then go down to the video and then arm them and then print away. And for printing, I normally like to be in Punch. Quick Punch is nice because it's gonna create a track. For example, I'll just take a little start from it. So basically, it's gonna the tracks down here as one whole. And then so with the reason behind why I like to use the punch mode is because if I need to punch something, and a great tip for punching is if you come here and go down to expand transport, you get this window and you set this to at least 3 seconds. Because for any compressors, reverbs, any plugin that needs some time to regather their thoughts of where to kick back in and be at, 3 seconds is plenty enough for it to kick back in. And with Quick Punch, I can roll it, and once it hits 3 seconds, start punching. And then with Quick Punch, punch out. I don't know why I would have to punch out. Well, if I was just like dialogue texture. But the nice thing is, once I'm done punching, I think I did it wrong. I think I have to redo the whole print. Yeah. If I redid like the whole thing, and I punch it, it's gonna basically overwrite all this info and on your hard drive. Zoom doesn't like it when I'm printing, I guess. Well, that stinks. Great. Good job. Well, yeah, so long story short is with Quick Punch, basically what it does is, for example, like if I did a punch of this section, it would take this and basically do that, and it would delete those 4 files that were originally there and go back to the original space. 5-1 panning, basically, it's just for dialogue. I normally leave that in center, unless like the director has a person who's like in the next room and the camera is like somewhere behind them, and the director wants to hear the character that's in the other room that's behind you. And so then I would pan accordingly where they were in the space. Yeah. But I normally, even with that, I don't really do a whole lot of panning. A lot of the 5-1 fun panning stuff is normally done, like for me, like is with effects. But just really subtlety, like really, like even though like 5-1, like yes, like it's cool to make like a plane fly over around you, and whatnot. But like I found with even with like 5-1 and now like learning about Atmos, like you don't you don't really need to show off like, oh, you can move a panner across the map and like go full steam ahead and go like wee. But like the subtleties of like a car buy of going like across the front screen and maybe tailoring it back a little bit. If like the camera was swinging by and like the truck was driving from like the left to the right, but the camera is moving to the left, and you would want that little tail of the dirt road or pavement, wet road, like to just really subtly come back around to the back of the theater, and like that would be pretty cool. And like I personally haven't done any Atmos stuff, but like again, like I would use the same principles that I've used with for 5.1, is just being subtle with it. But when like it's a action scene and a jet soaring right above you, like yes, I would take the object of the jet and put it into the heights and open it up and make it there. But so like 5.1 panning does, like, I feel like the only time that 5.1 panning for me takes me out of the narrative is when I notice someone like zips something really fast and far. Because like if the dialogue is sitting in the front and the foley is just falling right behind it, and the backgrounds are there subtly and the music's driving in like the right sense, then like I personally don't think like a crazy pan, like yes, a crazy pan will take me out, but a subtle pan won't. And I feel like that's, and like honestly, like all of this aside, like the role of a sound mixer, re-recording mixer, sound designer, sound editor, sound supervisor, it's all about to help enhance the story of the narrative that the filmmaker is trying to make. And so that's basically like what all of this is about, is just building the story to help the narrative of whatever the topic is of it. So, and yeah, so basically, does anyone else have any questions? Oh, this is Pro Tools Ultimate. Since I want to get up to 5.1, this is Pro Tools Ultimate, perpetual license that I bought. So ADR, if I have to do ADR, and like they don't have the budget to go somewhere to record the ADR, I have a decent setup in my closet. I have this microphone that I'm using, which is a Sennheiser 416 MKH 416. I have a Rode NTG2 and a Tram Lav. I normally will have a shotgun mic up and a lav, even though like my lav probably wasn't the one that was used on set. It helps me to try and get it close. With ADR, I do use like the same plugins that my dialogue is, and I will try and match it to the room, and I will use like dialogue match or use RX Connect and try and match EQ and all that stuff, to just try and get it close enough and make it sound good. And the key with ADR is making it with an ADR reverb, with a mono reverb, and because that's like one tip that someone told me about, was that like the ADR reverb send should be mono because it's only coming from like you're trying to match it as close as possible to production, and production did not use like a surround sound microphone and just use one mic. And so they were like, you should probably just use one mono reverb. And with that, like I've noticed that it has helped me um immensely with that. What was your role in this film? This film here called Paternal. I was basically the re-recording mixer and sound editor for this project. The editor um, who was attending my school that I used to go to, he that I graduated back in 2016, and he was in school in 2018. I want to say he like called me up last year and he was like, "Hey, I have this short film that I'm working on for my junior film or senior film, I forget. Could you help me do this with the sound design and mix?" And I was like, "Sure." And so yeah, so my role on this project was sound editor and re-recording mixer. And then another cool scene that I really like was this fight sequence. I'll play it for you guys. And like that is another great thing to note is that when you're sound designing stuff and like designing effects stuff for shorts and features and TV, and you feel like you're missing something, that I've learned over the years recently was you should have something during like slow mo intense stuff, and like because like I've always watched movies and TV series with like slow mo fights and of like of like what of like slow whooshes and sounds like that, and I was working on one project and sound supervisor showed me the edit that got to the stage that someone else did because I wasn't reaching that point at that time. He let me take that session home and take a look at it, and I was like, man, I missed so many great opportunities. And now like every small little opportunity I see in sound for effects, I try and fill something with it. Yeah, I will quickly go over my sound design libraries and sound libraries. I personally use Basshead. There's Soundly, SoundMiner. You can use Avid's Workspace just fine. On a quick side note with Workspace, is that to spot a track is, I want to say it's Control S. If you like find a effect that you like here, like animal baby cry, baby chickens, sure, why not? And then you hit Control S, it'll send it to the track, but in Basshead it's only S. I personally use Basshead because I've used it before. I demoed both Basshead and SoundMiner, and at the time, Basshead was having a sale, and I really liked the workflow of Basshead over SoundMiner. I know a lot of post facilities that I've worked at, and interned at use Basshead. No, sorry, use SoundMiner. But at home, I use Basshead. Um, I don't have like a whole lot of library stuff. Sony Effects is just the Sony like Sound Ideas Sony Effects. It's nothing too new special. It's the old like cartoon sound effects stuff that you get off of Sound Ideas. I have a few of my mentor people that have helped me record stuff and show me how to record stuff. Some of their stuff. Um, what I usually really focus around is Pro Sound Effects. I like their work that they've done. I know some people say no, some people say yeah, yay for it, but it's just personal taste. And at the time, like they were like good prices and sales going on, so I just invested in those. But recently I've been reworking on my own personal libraries of stuff. I have a handful of fun sounds that I recorded in college, and like this library that I'm working on is built from my second semester freshman year of college all the way to now, and like I've heard things that I recorded back then to now, and like the improvement of my knowledge of recording sounds is has gotten better, and understanding how to do it better as well. Um, Robinsons that was at an air show that I went to last year. That was cool. They had like 6 Robinsons just flying that you can take out through like a flying school that they showed you and all that stuff. But I didn't go flying because I don't really like helicopters. Um, yeah, so that's my personal library that I also use a lot. I really like to just go outside around Glendale and Burbank and just record ambiances. And then when I'm home in Massachusetts for Christmas and Thanksgiving and family stuff, I will just grab my Mix Pre 3, 2 mics, and just when I'm home, I'll record stuff as well. Um, and so, yeah, that's my effects process. Um, there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about, but I forget. FUTS basically is a term that is used for when you need to make someone sound like they're on a phone or a radio and whatnot. And so it's a term that's, I don't know exactly where it came from or who made it up or all the stuff, but it's just a term that's in the sound industry that people use to when you need to like make it sound like it's coming from a radio earbud or wherever, however, um, and whatnot. A lot of times, or like if you don't have like a Futzbox plugin or Futzbox, or there's another Futz plugin that I'm blanking out on right now. But if you just pull up an EQ, you can achieve honestly the same kind of sounds that a $50 Mic DSP Futzbox does. And because like normally it's just really just honestly just grabbing your highs and lows and just punching like your mids and something like. I know this is outrageous and drastic, but it's like also like to how it sounds and all that stuff. So it's just like how it should sound, of like what you think, what your perception of sound of what it should sound like on a radio or stereo, sound system, home theater, whatever. Reassigns is a new term that I learned, and a new process that I've learned. So basically, what reassign is that they're driven by aux sends here, and sometimes you'll have like 2 or 3 reassigns, and so you can have your dialogue be processing differently. And so like in theory, like I'll quickly just show it as an example. Like I could have just like less plugins on this one because I want this one to be for FUTs, for let's say, because I didn't have a FUTs plugin, so I just needed an EQ and whatnot. And so what the reassign function of stuff would be is that I would then route a second aux to this one, and then I would mute this one, open up this, unmute this one, and so for that scene or what, like I can then turn on the FUTs and then turn it back off, like turn this one off and then turn the regular one back on to make it unfuts. And so you can do a lot more cooler tricks like that, or like just different noise reduction processing on the same tracks of multiple ways. I know Mark Hensley has a website tutorial on his reassign process, and then I know if you listen to Tone Bender's podcast, I know that Gary Bourgeois, or however you pronounce his last name, I forget. He has a single dial reassign with like the same kind of concept with like his template, and so like I've taken ideas from those templates and implement implemented them into my template. And then like honestly, it's just also like whatever works best for you and you're comfortable with it, take it and run with it. And like you shouldn't like think, oh, my way is the best, or my way is the worst. Like if you get to point A to point B both ways and getting the same kind of sound, and like the client likes what you're doing, then you're doing just fine. Plugins necessary that one can invest in. Honestly, like for me, like at first I was like, honestly, I was like plugin crazy during college. I was like, I need waves, I need the latest and greatest, and like I first got gold. I first got Waves Gold bundle for college, and I was like, honestly, I should first learn Avid's like basic Avid plugin, EQ3, all that stuff. Because if you don't know the basics, then why do you want to get the better plugins? Like even though yes, like maybe they sound a little better, sound warmer, or like do a little bit more here and there, like an EQ plugin is gonna do what any other EQ plugin is gonna do. Like yes, the coloration might be different, but it's gonna sound different like for the color, because one is digital maybe and the other one is emulated UAD Pultec EQ that I also love. But it's just coloration. And so like honestly, like if you are beginning as a beginner or up and coming sound mixer and you're trying to like get your foot in the door, I would honestly just put on channel strip like Avid's channel strip plugin on your dialogue. I would put I would also like invest in the Avid's Pro bundle, which then will give you the Pro compressor, Pro limiter, and even with those, like you'll be getting a little bit more better stuff with that. And just like being familiar with what you have, and honestly, like if you buy plugins or like use them, like it's just another tool on your tool belt. Um, Analog gear I don't really use a lot because I primarily just do post sound. If you're more into music mixing, I personally like distressors. I don't have any, but I love them. Um, a lot of my friends recording studios that I go to help record their bands, they have like Neve compressors and distressors and all that stuff. But no, yeah, RX is essential for um, dialogue editors and even effects editing as well when you're mastering your sound effects libraries or you just want to manipulate something really crazy or whatnot. Um, it is it is it it does count as a plugin because you can place it here and it's under plugin. So I would imagine it would be considered a plugin. Another great noise reduction plugin is Bruce Fry. It's fabulous and it's only like 40-50 bucks. And it does miracles. It's like voice it's like dialogue denoise, but it does it a little differently, I feel like, and it does a little better job, even though it's a lot cheaper. I edit in I edit and mix in both 48 24-bit and most of my audio field recordings that I'm doing for sound effects are I'm recording at 96K, just so I can get a little bit more frequency ranges in my recording. When I pitch shift it down in 48, um, that's one cool trick that I know a lot of people do is when they're doing sound effects recordings is recording in higher sample rate, so then they have more frequency ranges to play with when they bring it in, and the sample rate um, artifacts aren't as noticeable when you're recording sound effects at 48 and you bring them into a 48 session and you slow it down. Like it's gonna like when you're slowing it really down, it's gonna sound bad. When you record something at like 96, you have a little bit more room, but it's still a little painful at times. It's a German word. It's Bruce Fry. Yeah. Thanks, Adam. And yeah. Um yeah. So yeah, so like in my effects library, I have a sound effects at 96. When I'm bringing it, it is gonna convert to 48, but and so in Basshead, like I can slow things down in Basshead, and then when I bring it into Pro Tools, it is gonna convert it down to 48, but it's gonna I am editing the like pitch shifting it native 96 or whatever sample rate I have it here, and then when it's here it's gonna be in 48. But yeah. Would everyone like to watch this film? Yeah, I pitch things up in Basehead, and then I um I then bring it into Pro Tools. So sit back and relax. I'll just play like a little bit of it, and yeah, let's take. If it catches up. If not, it's gonna be fine. Nope, okay. Oh, that's right. I was gonna say. So when it comes to mixing, to go back to your first question, I think Adam, you said earlier, when I pre-dub stuff, is yeah. So once I do my dialogue edit, once I get effects and music in, I then will go and mute all. I'll go down and mute my effects and music stem and not listen to it, because when I have them on input monitoring, that's how I can hear it. And so I'll mute these and just listen to the dialogue and get a pre-dub mix of just the dialogue. Once I get that leveled with clip gain and with volume automation, I'll then hop over here, turn on music, and then go and mix the music against the dialogue and making it as nice and easy and smooth as possible. And then as I'm mixing it, and then after I finish all the music, balancing it to the dialogue, since the dialogue is king and it's the backbone of the film, and it should be for all the films that we're all working on. I'll then mix in Foley and backgrounds after I do music and dialogue. And then after I do the Foley and backgrounds, I'll then mix in all the hard effects and all the sound design stuff to just get it sitting in the pocket. And then once I feel confident in that mix, I will then send that mix down. I'll then mix it down and send it to the client for feedback. And then once I get notes back from it, I'll then make those changes. And I'll do that like 2 or 3 times. And then for the final mix, I'll have the client come over. Or if it has the budget, then we would rent a stage. But if not, then he or she will come to my apartment, and then we'll just be in my setup and mix and play back with what what I have, and I know it's going to translate fine if it's in festivals. And yeah, so I basically will then mix everything there, and then once the client approves, I then do one final print of the whole film, and then I send it to the client. And so yeah, to answer your question, Adam, I wait till I finish everything editorial wise, and then I go through and mix it. And yeah, like I began mixing with the mouse, and even though it is a pain, you can still do it. Like it doesn't. It's like it's where we all began. I feel like is like with the fader. and just with like just the fader, and mixing with that is just fine, because I know probably some professionals even mix with the fader still on big stages in front of clients on a big console. Like it's okay. Like, and then once you get like a small little control surface, like an iPad or even like a old Command 8 that I have that I picked up for like $250, like it'll open up a lot more space. It's gonna take up space on your desk, but it's gonna open up a lot more opportunities, and the learning curve is gonna open up a lot more for you to understand how to mix and what you're doing with everything. And then after I do that, then I send the client the final print and go from there. Good question. How to figure out when you're finished editing? Honestly, it's when I have done all my sound design stuff that I want, all my effects and Foley, and I know my dialogue edit is done and the music's in, and I feel like the project is there, wrapped up, and it's ready to mix. I'm not really sure like how to answer that question. I think I answered it for you, but no, yeah, it's just like for me, like once I know, I feel like I have everything that I see in on the picture, and I have everything down on my tracks, and it's playing back without any volume automation, and I just go anywhere and I hit play. Like,
Sarah,
and I feel confident and ready to mix it, then I'll mix it. I'll take a few more questions and I'll probably wrap up around 6:30. But yeah, like this is my workflow. I hope everyone learned something. Um, and I don't know, I might do a few more. Yeah, I can send you the link for his stuff. For sure. Yeah, he has a blog that he's done. And yeah, like I just wanted to maybe begin this as a start for this quarantine session of just like I don't know, like helping each other out. Even though like I know professionals and like those who are up and coming like me, like to feel confident of being in this strange time and just knowing that we're all in this together, and like even though they're seniors and like they're giving me input and I'm learning from them, like it's all about, I forget who told me about this, but like mentors should have a mentor to mentor and a mentor to look up to. And so for me, I have like a handful of of like award winning, like top notch re-recording mixers and friends on like the Facebook group that I look up to, and they've mentored me and teach me and show me all of these tools that I've shown you. And then I have people that are at my level, the same level, if not a little bit lower, that I am walking along side by side. And then I have those who are in college that have reached out to me through professors at HU who want to learn more about sound or like have questions about production sound, post production sound, and just like how to make all that stuff. And like like I find joy of just like being able to answer those questions and then being able to just like be with those who are with me in this process, and then looking up to my recording friends and knowing that one day I will be able to get there. Cause like we're all in this, but we're not like you shouldn't be in any in any in any facet of the entertainment business to just think, oh, I want the Oscar and only the Oscar. Like, I'm sorry, but that's not the right attitude to have. The right attitude to have is being able to be in it, not for the money, not for the glory, not for the pride, but just in it for the story and for building up each other and walking with each other and knowing that you're doing something good and gonna be there for everything. Okay, guys, thanks for everything. And um, yeah, and then I'll post this recording in like a few days for those who couldn't make it. And yeah, so thank you.